Yes. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for me. So we got some fights this weekend. We have Benavidez versus Ramirez and the Inoue fight as well. I also want to touch on Mr. Canelo Alvarez as well. So let's get started here. I'll be reading off from ESPN. Let's get a few facts here, and then we'll talk about it. So we have David Benavidez moves up to the cruiserweight division to challenge WBA and WBO champion Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez. I can't roll those R's, guys. I'm sorry, I'm not Latino. It's going to be this Saturday at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. This is Cinco de Mayo weekend. So David Benavidez has supplanted Canelo as the face of Mexican / Latin American boxing, So right now, you'd have to say Benavidez might be the biggest name in North American boxing, right? Because Crawford's retired. Canelo, I think a lot of his luster's worn off. One with obviously ducking Benavidez, but then the loss to Crawford. I think, his time at the top is definitely numbered, So it looks like Benavidez is now the guy, right? But let's keep reading on. Benavidez is a former super middleweight or super weight bully and light heavyweight champion. After his quest for a mega fight with Canelo never materialized, he continued his climb in weight classes in pursuit of becoming a 3-division champion. He enters this fight off a 7th round TKO of Anthony Yarde in November, his 7th stoppage in his past 10 bouts. Ramirez, 48-1 with 30 KOs, is a 2-division champion who previously held a super middleweight title before moving up to light heavyweight and eventually cruiserweight. He captured the WBA cruiserweight belt against Arsen Goulamirian in March 2024, added the WBO title with a win over Chris Billam-Smith 8 months later, and most successfully defended his belts against Uniel Dorticos in June 2025. So this is going to be Benavidez's debut at cruiserweight. So Benavidez has grown on me as a fighter. As I stated earlier, I wasn't a fan of him as super middleweight because I did feel like he was a weight bully. He and Zurdo have been massive weight bullies. There's no other way around it, right? But that still never excused Canelo for ducking Benavidez, in my opinion. There's no evidence that Benavidez cheated to make weight. So for all we know, all I can say is on the surface, the man made weight. Now, I have my suspicions of how you can walk around at 210 pounds and successfully drop 42 pounds in order to make the super middleweight limit time and time again. I have my suspicions on how these guys make weight. I mean, we've seen it a lot, especially with these Mexican fighters. A lot of these dudes are juice heads. That's just the truth. You got Munguia. Somehow he's able to fight. The guy just had a positive PED test. and now he's on the undercard of this fight. But again, there's no evidence to suggest that Benavidez cheated to make the weight. So it's really a shame that the fight between him and Canelo never materialized. But a duck is a duck. But Benavidez, as I was getting to, he's grown on me because I've now seen him beat up dudes his size. And that's how I always am with a lot of these weight bullies, these guys who are just massively oversized for their divisions. Sebastian Fundora, Hamza Shiraz, right? I don't really know how good they are until I see them fight dudes their own size. Lawrence Okoli. Man, how good are you? We don't know because you don't fight dudes your own size. You cut an insane amount of weight. Again, how do you cut that weight? We just saw Lawrence Okoli have an adverse finding for performance enhancing drugs. So it's like, how good are you? We don't know. No one knows because you're not fighting guys your own size. But credit to Benavidez. He's fighting guys his own size. And same with Zurdo. Again, no shame in losing to Bivol. Bivol's one of the best in the world. But I was never really a fan of the guy at super middle or light heavyweight because you hear these reports of him rehydrating to 205 pounds after weigh-in. And it's just kind of like, how is that fair? You're not actually trying to compete against someone your own size. You're trying to bully them. You're trying to take advantage of that. You're looking for the mismatch. You're not looking for a fair fight. But these guys have built themselves up, and this is a fair fight. You know, I think that Zurdo has a very good chance of winning. I think he has underrated skill, underrated footwork. I think he has better footwork than Benavidez. I think that Zurdo puts his punches together very well. I do sense that he has some vulnerability to the body, though. If you go back and watch the Chris Billum-Smith fight, CBS actually hurt Zurdo to the body, even though Zurdo dominated that fight, right? CBS looked a mess after. I don't know how he didn't go down. Like, credit to CBS. Tough dude. But he did hurt Zurdo to the body, so there does seem to be some vulnerability. But I would imagine both of them are because they're both kind of fleshy. Like, to me, neither one of them looks like a real cruiserweight. Like, I know aesthetics aren't everything. I know genetics play a huge factor. But this fight, to me, in my mind, justifies my advocacy for kind of a 190, 188 pound weight class. Because to me, this is a battle of two tweeners. I don't really look at them as natural cruiserweights when most of these guys at cruiserweight are walking around at like 220, 230. You know, you see Usyk at heavyweight now. You see Gassiev at heavyweight, Holyfield. These guys don't have that kind of build, you know, where you can imagine them going to heavyweight. Like most cruiserweights, especially the good ones, you kind of see that build where it's like, okay, like this guy's a small heavy. Eventually, he can put on the size and go and bang with the big boys. I don't see either one of these guys moving up to heavyweight having any success at all. I could be wrong, but I don't think either one of them will be able to compete at heavyweight. They don't punch hard enough, and I just don't think they have the size or the physical strength to deal with the massive disparity in size and in punching power and in height as well. Both of them, I think Zurdo is maybe like 6'2", 6'3". Benavidez is like 6'2", 6'1". So it's an interesting matchup from that perspective. However, I don't like the fact that neither one of these guys seems interested in Jai Opetaia. And to me, that's the real shame, is that Jai is being frozen out. Now, the jury's still out on whether Jai made the right decision going to Zuffa. I think it's still way too early. You know, I'm not a fan of Dana White for a variety of reasons, mainly because he underpays his fighters and because he's a Trump sycophant. But as far as the promotion goes, just setting my feelings for Dana White to the side, the jury's still out on whether or not it's a good decision or not, because there does seem to be an avenue for Zuffa fighters to be able to compete on the Riyadh season cards, because Dana White and Turki Al-Sheikh, the head of Riyadh season, seem to have a good rapport and good working relationship. So it's not outside of the realm of possibility that these guys could fight Jai. And I think if they wanted the fight to happen, especially Benavidez, because he's a star now, right? He's a mega star, especially here in the U.S. I think the fight could happen, but Benavidez doesn't seem keen on it. Zurdo acts like he doesn't even know Jai Opetaya's name, and to me, that's a bit off-putting, and it takes away from the excitement of this fight, because for me as a fan, this fight would be way more interesting if either one of these guys said, I want Jai next, I want to unify with Jai, I want to unify with Jai, I want to take Jai on, I want to prove I'm the best. But both of them weirdly are more interested in going back down to light heavyweight, which to me is an indictment on their confidence. Like, they clearly don't think they can beat Jai. That's the bottom line. There's no other way around it. I think if they thought they could win that fight, they would take on Jai. But again, all of these guys do it. You see it time and time again. The guy who is the boogeyman, when he becomes champ, he starts ducking fighters, right? We've seen it with Usyk. We're seeing it now with Benavidez and Zurdo ducking Jai. Like, all of these guys who claim to be about that life, when they get them belts, all of a sudden they start acting funny. So I'm not a fan of that. I'm also not a fan of the fact that here in the U.S., the pay-per-view is $80 fucking. $80 fucking. That's crazy. That's crazy, bro. It's like I was saying the other day. It just seems like the elites, they're always trying to get one on you. Like, these fighters, these networks, these promoters are so damn greedy. Like, they act like gas isn't $5 a gallon. I just filled up my tank, bro, and I have a small car. I don't drive an Escalade or a Hummer. I drive a small sedan. And the price is just like eye-watering. It just hurts my feelings. And then if I want to unwind on the weekend, watch a good fight, I got to drop $80 fucking, right? People just paid their rent. It's like, give us a break, man. Come on. Like, what about the people? What about the people? This is for the people, right? This is celebrating Mexican independence, right? Cinco de Mayo, right? And it's supposed to be about the people. This is supposed to be a working man's sport, a working class sport. But again, they price so many people out because they're greedy, man. And it's a shame, because this is a good matchup, but that's a mega turnoff for me. So who do I think I'll win? I won't rant on that, because I could go on and do that forever. But who do I think I will win? I'll have to go with Benavidez. He has a crazy work rate. He's relentless. He wears guys out with his pressure, because he never takes a backward step. However, Zurdo is a live dog. Like, I'm going 60-40 Benavidez, but I will not be shocked if Zurdo pulls off the upset. I think he has underrated skill, underrated foot speed. Yeah, he hasn't had a stoppage in his last few fights, but I think he hits hard enough to get these guys his respect, and I think he'll get Benavidez his respect. He's also got the southpaw element, but he's a southpaw that likes to fight. He likes to get in on the inside. He's got a good inside game, good punch variety, decent stamina. Does seem vulnerable to the body, though, like I said earlier. So, yeah, if you put a gun to my head, I'm going to go with Benavidez on points. But I would not be surprised if Zurdo pulls off the upset. You know, Benavidez, he's skilled. He's skilled enough. But there's still holes in his game, defensive vulnerabilities. And I think someone like Zurdo has the skill to exploit those vulnerabilities. So it's an interesting matchup. And I'm debating if I'm going to pay for that pay-per-view. I might watch the highlights, bro. That's just crazy, because I'm not upgrading to Ultimate. It's just a ripoff. Why? You guys said you were going to be the end of pay-per-view, right? But we'll see. We'll see, man. But these people are crooks. But moving on, man, I did want to touch on Sir Saul Canelo Alvarez. I cannot roll my R's. Right, so we have some news here from Mr. Canelo. So again, back to ESPN. Canelo Alvarez will make his highly anticipated return to the ring and challenge Christian Mbilli for the WBC super middleweight title in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia in September, the ring announced Thursday. Canelo, 63, 3-2 with 39 KOs. That's a crazy record, man. Hasn't fought since losing the undisputed super middleweight championship to Terence Crawford in September. Following that loss, he underwent elbow surgery. Canelo's healed, blah, blah, blah. Mbilli, 29-0-1 with 24 KOs. Last fought Lester Martinez to a split draw on the undercard of Alvarez Crawford. Mbilli, who came into the fight as the interim WBC super middleweight champion, was elevated to full champion after Crawford retired in December. All right. So let me just do this. Chapeau to Canelo. Respect to Canelo, right? I've been a huge critic of Canelo, mainly because he ducked David Benavidez, but also, in my opinion, because he ducked David Morrell when David Morrell was at super middleweight. And he never rematched Bivol, even though Bivol was willing to come down to 168 and fight Canelo because Canelo was scared he was going to lose the belts to him. He aged out Triple G. And, of course, he used PEDs like his stablemate, Munguia, and a few fighters out of the Reynoso gym. You know, so I've had my issues with Canelo. But, again, no one is above criticism and no one is beneath praise. Again, shout out to Hatman. I stole that from him. I'm not going to lie and act like I made that up. But in this situation, Canelo deserves praise. He's taking on a tough challenge, especially at his age, right? And Mbilli, tough, punches hard, great gas tank. He's probably on PEDs. But we don't know that for sure, but I'm just guessing. Because when you see a guy that muscle bound, usually they have stamina problems, especially later on in the fight. But he just keeps going and going and going. He's got a crazy work rate. He punches hard. He's aggressive. Seems to have a good chin. There are some defensive vulnerabilities there, which is why, you know, you still would favor Canelo because Canelo is a great counterpuncher. You know, he lost to Crawford, who is an all-time great counterpuncher, right? There's just levels, right? Crawford's IQ is just higher than Canelo's. It's on another level, which is why he schooled him. But Canelo has a high IQ. I still think IQ-wise, he's still top 10 pound for pound. And while I think Mbilli will pose a stiff challenge to Canelo, I think Canelo has the skill to deal with him. But I'll kind of give my analysis of that fight a little bit later. This isn't really an analysis channel. It's more of an opinion channel. I'm not the boxing X's and O's guys. I boxed a little bit, but I mainly just like to talk about the state of the sport. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a good fight, and respect to Canelo because, you know, he could have taken an easier fight for a comeback. He's a big star. He could have leveraged it. He could have cherry-picked a bum and taken an easier fight. He could have fought, I don't know, a washed-up Chris Eubank, knocked him out, and nobody would have really complained about it because he's no longer the champion. He's no longer holding up the division. Now, I'm not a huge fan of guys getting immediate title shots following a loss, but I don't know, super middleweight's kind of dead right now. Like, who's really out there? It's hard to argue that there's a better challenge for Mbilli outside of Canelo. I could be wrong. There's that Resendez guy. He could run it back with Lester Martinez. But there are no, in my opinion, standout fighters at super middleweight. Like, all of the guys either moved up or retired in the case of Crawford. You know, Benavidez is gone, Morrell is gone, Callum Smith is gone. So there's never really there's not a lot of challenges for Mbilli. So I'm not outraged by Canelo getting the title shot. You know, he was a long reigning champion, and Crawford didn't give him an opportunity to rematch. You know, to have the rematch. So I don't have an issue with it. It doesn't bother me at all. But first impression, I think Canelo will win. But it'll be tough because Canelo does have a low work rate and Canelo has stamina problems. So Canelo doesn't want to get in a situation where Mbilli's taking the first 2-3 rounds and now he's got to work his way back from a deficit. Because I don't know if he has the stamina and, again, the work rate to climb out of a deficit. So I think it's important that he establishes that respect early. If you're Mbilli, this is the moment you've been waiting for, you know. He's kind of in the who needs him club. He's dangerous, you know, but he's not a star. He's based, I believe, in Montreal. I think he trains out of the same gym as Benavidez. And what's the guy's name? Mahmoud. Who's the guy Fury just fought? I can't think of his name. Makhmudov. So he's kind of an unknown quantity. He's not the sexiest guy in the world. English isn't his first language, but he has an exciting style. So this is his opportunity to showcase his skill to the world. You know, I don't know how many opportunities a guy like Mbilli will get, again, because he doesn't really have star written all over him. He's the kind of guy that's going to have to take out some big names in order to build a huge platform for himself, because I don't think the industry is going to do a guy like him any favors. But yeah, man, interesting fight. Again, chapeau to Canelo. You're taking a tough fight after a loss. I have no issues with this fight. You know, respect to Canelo for taking that fight. Again, I give credit where credit is due. And that's what fanboys need to understand, right? I don't worship fighters. I call things how I see it, right? I had a lot of Usyk fanboys get worked up a few weeks ago because I criticized Usyk versus Verhoeven, but I thought it was deserved. Again, I give Usyk all the credit in the world, but when he's on some BS, I'm going to criticize it, right? As you all know, I'm an AJ fan, but I'm not a fanboy. I'm not a sycophant, right? I don't think AJ will ever be champion again, but if he somehow gets a belt and then decides to defend that belt, let's say against John Jones, a man who has never boxed a day in his life and who has no business being in the ring, boxing for a heavyweight championship, I will criticize AJ and I'll say AJ's on some BS. So I'm not a fanboy, right? This is not a fanboy channel. Yes, I root for fighters, but I'm not a fanboy. And if a fighter's on BS, I'll call it out. But if he does something I like, chapeau. It's simple. Don't be emotional. Don't let your feelings get in the way of facts. And again, don't worship celebrities. None of these men know who you or I are. They don't care. If we drop dead right now, they won't care. I keep saying that. Hopefully the message will get through to some of you guys. But last fight I want to talk about, Inoue. I'm legit just putting that in the title so people will click on it. I don't care about midget fights. I don't know what you want me to say. I have no analysis. I know Nakatani didn't look great in his last fight, but Inoue, there's some vulnerability there. He's been dropped a few times, and Nakatani, he's pretty big for the weight class, which I think is what, junior featherweight, 122, I believe. But again, I'm not your guy. If you're into midgets, this ain't the channel for you. Midget fights, women fights, I'm not your guy. Sky Nicholson, Sorry, bro. I'm not I'm not analyzing that crap. Doesn't interest me. There has to be danger, man. I have to feel like the guy in the ring could beat me up. And I know that's wrong, but I just feel like I would have a chance against Inoue. I probably would lose a boxing match. But if he pulled up on me in the streets, I feel like I'd have a chance, bro. Like if Tyson Fury or Usyk or AJ or even Canelo or Mbilli, one of these dudes pulls up on me, Benavidez, I'm going to be scared. I ain't no punk. I'm still going to swing, but I would be scared. I'd be nervous, you know? So it's just that vicarious experience, you know, for me. And I just don't get that watching midgets and women fight. But that's my opinion. I just wanted to cover these 3 fights. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Have a great weekend. Peace.